Hello and welcome to the part of the series where we get a little more technical for a second. And that's because this is where we start talking about how to do reporting inside of your BizDev system. So in this episode, we're going to dive into the practical side of reports. But before we get anywhere near the technical tools, I want to share my point of view on where I think reporting actually starts, because it's actually not anywhere near software. Rather, reporting starts with a person, a real dedicated person on your team whose implicit responsibility is to monitor the activity happening across all of your pipelines. This person should be opening up your CRM every single morning. They should click through every pipeline, card by card, stage by stage, and see what's moving and then what's getting stuck. They should check the task on those cards. They should review which ones are in progress and make sure every task is made to move that opportunity to the next stage. Then they should repeat that process for every pipeline, starting from delivery and then working backwards all the way to marketing. Now, they'll probably spend less time in delivery because that's where your head of production and your producers live day to day. And honestly, on a little side note here, I do not recommend your executive producers take on this role of keeping track of the CRM. They have enough to keep track of and you want them focused on your clients. Instead, this role belongs to someone like on the operations or the business development team, like perhaps one of the principals, a COO, the head of sales, or someone who sits close to both kind of operations and revenue together. And even though this person may not be running the day-to-day production, they should still be looking at the delivery pipeline though. Because remember, delivery isn't just about getting the job done. It's also about creating that product that you're going to use, the campaign that you made that's going to fuel your next round of marketing. That's why this person should start with delivery and then work backwards through the system every single day. And so after delivery, then they move to the sales pipeline, right? You're going to find out who you're waiting to hear back from, which opportunities have stalled out, where is momentum slipping, who owns the next action. Then they're going to go to the development pipeline. Which relationships are getting stale? Is there someone on your team who needs support to re-engage the client or the lead? Then they move to the engagement pipeline, thinking about what outreach is happening this week. What leads are engaging back? When will these leads get asked for a meeting? And then finally, they'll end with marketing. Is the content going out consistently? Are you sharing content every week across social media, LinkedIn, and your website? Are you developing your monthly newsletter? And of course, all of these efforts are targeting specific leads that you have in your engagement pipeline. Any of this sound familiar? If so, and it's kind of fuzzy, or if not, refer back to the marketing and engagement episode to kind of refresh that memory or get caught up on all those creative tactics. The point is, someone has to be in charge of watching the system and how it runs, and it needs to be part of their job description. There needs to be someone on your team whose role it is to keep the CRM clean, current, and alive, to make sure it's not just a database, but an engine for the entire company. So they're going to manage the interactions, they're going to empower others, they're going to keep the whole flywheel spinning. And when they do that, then they can report on real activity in real time. That's the most important kind of reporting there is, not some kind of static dashboard, but an informed person who knows what's working, what's stuck, and then what needs attention. This is how you actually live by the idea that you've heard me say a million times about this, the single source of truth. Because most companies, they never even reach this point. They treat their CRM more like a filing cabinet. Instead, I want you to treat it like a control room. And when you do it right and you make it kind of part of your whole system, you know what happens next? It becomes the heartbeat of your whole company. I know you heard me say this a lot. All right. With that foundation in place and that emotional rant out of my system, let's get technical and dive into the demo. So here we are in the Copper system, and I'm going to show you a few levels of doing reports, and you can kind of choose what level works best for you. But I will also add, you're going to see me get pretty technical toward the end. And while this kind of a setup is important, I'm actually not quite sure how much longer it's going to be necessary with AI integration coming online so fast. I imagine very soon you'll be able to produce reports kind of instantaneously based on just using natural language. In fact, this may already be in place by the time you're viewing this video. But at the time of publishing anyway, I don't know of any CRM that is offering this feature yet, and I've been looking. So I imagine it's harder to implement than it may seem. But I do know that Copper has been talking about this on social media and in their product roadmap webinar sessions. So stay tuned for that. Until then, here's Copper, and there are 5 levels of reporting that I want to walk you through, and you can kind of choose your own adventure. And the first one is just simply the pipeline, the sales pipeline rather. This is the place where a lot of clients that I use just use this right here. So they have the sales pipeline. You can see this here. We're in sales. It says sales up here. And like I've said before, this is where financials start coming into play. It's really the only pipeline where you have financials in play. And then you could kind of see the level of business activity you have going on and forecasting just from right here. So you have how many opportunities you have open in the sales pipeline, what's the value of all those opportunities here. In each one of these stages, you can kind of get a prediction for how much each one is worth. And you can kind of just use this. And when you do it in combination of filters, then you kind of get a lot of the information you might need. And just remember, I'll have to, kind of say this over and over again, but when a project or when an opportunity starts in a pipeline, it stays there forever. So when something gets into the sales pipeline, then that's where it's either going to be open and you're working it, or you're going to win it and it moves to delivery, or it's going to be abandoned because for whatever reason it wasn't worth pursuing, or you lost it. Any of those statuses will be applied to the card, but they stay in the sales pipeline forever. And then you just use filters to decide what you want to see and what you don't want to see. So in this case, I'm looking at open opportunities, and you could do some bit of sales forecasting just from that right there. And then you could just create a series of filters and just have them over here. So for instance, you might say, how many jobs have we won in 2025? And then I could see right here, we had 29 opportunities and we have over $8 million in jobs won. And if you wanted to see what this looked like, I'd be in filters. It would be very simple. It'd be in status 1. And then I'd have the close date be January 2025 to December 2025. Anything that happens in there is good. You could also just have this be blank and it will just continue on with whatever date it is. So, and when you do that, you just hit save filter and it saves right over here. Or you can do it for 2024. Same kind of rules apply, right? Just the dates are different now. So you could do it by people, right? So if I just want to look at one person's sales, I could just track that. You could track that in combination with the year. You could do the jobs you've lost, and you're just getting a good financial snapshot right here. How many opportunities and what were they worth? So that's just one level of doing kind of reporting that actually works pretty good. And you could even have like little indicators on the sales pipeline here that are kind of telling you when you have big opportunities or when things are kind of getting problematic. So if you look here on these cards, you'll see this right here is a high value. It says it's greater than $100,000. Or this one here says slipping away because there's been no interaction with this opportunity or this person in over 30 days. And the way you can control what cards get what is right over here in settings. And then you can go over here to the pipeline card flags, and then you just put in whatever amount you want. I could put in, 150,000. I could put in just 50,000, and I could change the slipping days too, or I could turn them all off, and they just kind of go away, and you won't see anything. So you'll see in other pipelines, I don't have these because they're not relevant. So that is another way you can use the sales pipeline for doing some basic level kind of reporting right here. But if you want to get up a little bit more, you can go into this right here called Pipeline Reports, which is a pretty useful tool. So it gives you a summary of everything going on, and you can choose the different pipelines. Since we're talking about money and it's going to be in the sales pipeline, that's all you really need to worry about. You can have custom filters here if you want to have them there for this pipeline. You could choose the dates, and you could just look here and see how much money you have coming in each stage, and then the jobs down below. But what I like actually is by owner, seeing how much money's coming in by owner and seeing that at a quick glance. So if you have multiple owners there, that really becomes an interesting way to look at who's doing what. And then forecasting is probably one of my favorites though. So this is where you can start looking into the future a little bit. And keep in mind, this is where you're gonna start seeing how important it is to have jobs that you're working on with a close by date predicted out, because that's how this information is dictated. Whatever, like if you have a job coming in, it gets into the sales pipeline, you need to make an estimate about when you think that close date's going to be, and then you put that close date there, and then that's when you're going to get these forecasts into the future. So I can start going out here a little bit. And then you can see the stages that they're in as well. So, and then you can look at this by monthly, you can look at it by quarterly, you can look at it by weekly, you can go back in time, all of that kind of stuff. So this is a really fast way to do reports right here. And then you can do all the other ones too, the sales by owner and loss reasons and stuff like that. But these are the kind of the ones that I think work the best for folks. So just using the sales pipeline itself is a pretty effective way for doing reporting. And I see some people, that's just kind of what they rely on right here. They can also have this working with QuickBooks and things like that. So all of these jobs and their invoice works with QuickBooks, and then you're doing your reconciliation there and just kind of comparing it with this Copper system as well. So there's a couple ways. You have the sales pipeline and the pipeline reports. You can use filters and you can use little indicators along the way. Or you could take it to the next level and get into custom reports. Now this is where it gets a little technical. So if I go into custom reports, there's all kinds of custom reports that you can make. The three that I recommend starting with, and that we're just going to talk about here, are the sales and engagement and development pipelines. And so what do we have here are dashboards, right? These are just the infographic, if you can imagine that you'll see. So if I go here onto sales, you're going to get an infographic of data that's just pulling from the Copper system live. And it just has all of the stuff that you might need here. And we'll get into the details here in a second, but I just want to give an overview first. So this is the big infographic. And then this data that's in here is just the details of that infographic. And it's that easy to think about. And if you want to build one of these, the way you do that is you have three different kind of pieces of data that you could choose from. You have insights, right? These are the things that I've made down here. These are called insights. And these are done with an insight builder that we'll get into in a second. And then there are KPIs, key performance indicators, that are these things right here. And then there's filters. The filters will go up here so that you can kind of narrow it in to whatever it is you're doing. In this case, I'm saying the filter range is this year, the sales pipeline. I'm putting all the opportunity statuses right here. That would be the four primary ones that we have, right? The owners, and I have these up here just because I might want to switch the sales report out, right? So if I am looking at this sales report, I'm like, I just want to see what was done by this person here, only this person. And then I could get information just from that person. So you may have like 5 or 6 people on your team that you are, tracking, and then you could just get that information just by the owner. But I'm going to do all and apply that. And so here's what we have here. So we have the jobs won, right? This is that KPI I was talking about. It's showing change. So if it's negative, then it's kind of going down. It shows the percent change in what you had last year. So by this time last year, we had 42 jobs that we won, and this time we only have 29. We have the average value of the jobs won. You can see it's going up from the last same period previous year. We have the total value of jobs won, and then we have the value of the jobs delivered. Now this is kind of interesting here. So you have the total value of the jobs won for whatever's in this pipeline. And then I add this one here called the value of jobs delivered. And what I try to do with that is make sure that this is kind of useful for telling you what you bid the job at, what you won the job at, and then what may have happened through change orders, budget adjustments, or whatever else. And then you'll see the difference. Now it says 12 million here versus 8 million there because I'm always moving things around in these demos and kind of practicing stuff. But most of the time, you'll be surprised at how close those things match each other. And when they're just off a little bit, you can kind of dive into like, why is that off? And it kind of just shows you where you've had, budget increases or anything else that might inform them being a little bit different. So these are the KPIs that I'll try to do. And then I'll throw in some of these insights in here, and I'll do things like jobs won by business type. So oftentimes with my clients, you're either getting business from agencies or from brands. So this will tell you how many jobs you've won this year in this case. So I could change it to, this quarter, or I could change it to, and I don't think I have enough data in here to make it worthwhile, which is why I'm using this year. But you can change it to this week if you want to. And it'll tell me how many jobs I've won by those two different kinds of business types, or the job won by type. So it might be the job type, right? It's a video job, or you're just doing editorial on it, or maybe you do video, but you also do live event production, streaming, whatever it might be. You have those in here as well, and you can see how many of those kinds of jobs you've won. Or you've won jobs by category, right? Now, it'd be a little bit dangerous here because you have too many categories. You're not specialized enough, which undermines the whole system here. But you might have different kinds of ways of slicing and dicing the kinds of work that you do. You might be particularly focused on entertainment jobs, on a particular kind of advertising, a particular kind of client. In fact, you should be. But you could have a couple of those down over here, so you could see how many jobs you've won of the 29 here. And by category, by type, and by business type. You could do, this is kind of fun, where you could look at where you were and compare it to the same amount of jobs won this time last year and look at it by quarter. You could do jobs won by owner. Like I said before, that's really interesting. If you have 3 or 4 people on there, you can see who's bringing in the most money. And then you also do delivery on that by owner, like how many jobs that were brought in have been wrapped up by owner. So kind of interesting data there. And then you have this running sum that is really good for forecasting. It's another way of looking at that pipeline report that I showed you over there. So this is and of course you want to see this going up and up as much as possible. And as it starts getting out into the future from where we are right now, then you might have a little bit more trouble, knowing how many jobs you have coming in, where they're going to close. But you got to fine tune that and hopefully be predicting out and seeing where the company's going to go. It's the running sum for the whole year. Another way of looking at this too for forecasting is to see the jobs that you have that are open and the ones that are won. So you can see the job status open and won. So these are open. Obviously, it's in the future from what it is today. And you can see the ones that are open. And if there's something that didn't get closed, you can see that kind of stuff here that kind of pops up. And, that's why the reports are sometimes good. It shows something and it's like, hey, that seems odd. Then you can go back into the system and maybe do a little bit of fixing and modification on that. And then I always like to have something in here toward the end around jobs lost. How many jobs you lose, what was the value of those jobs and the average value of those, and then put a little bit of change stuff on here as well. So this is a kind of an overview of the sales report that I do. But remember, sales isn't the only thing that matters. It's about bringing in new leads, right? And or taking current clients and then keeping them and growing them into new opportunities. So that's why the development pipeline is so important, and it's also worth tracking. I go into less detail here usually with the development pipeline, but you'll kind of get a sense of it here. What we'll do is how many opportunities are open. Sorry, these are open clients. Remember, in the development pipeline, there's 2 kinds of people. There's clients, people that have paid you to do work for them, and then there's folks that have there's the leads. Someone that they wouldn't be in the development pipeline if you didn't know them. You've met them, you've had a conversation, you got their lead score, you got their goals and objectives, you know what you're doing with them, right? So, knowing that there's 2 different kinds of people in this pipeline, then I kind of track all of that. So for here, you might say that, how many client jobs that we have open are opportunities. How many have we won? How many have we lost, or how many have we abandoned for whatever reason? And you could choose the time frame up here and how that would kind of match up. So I could say, this quarter if I want to, and then it would change here. So you get the idea. Okay. And then down here, some really interesting information where you can, I think this kind of stuff is really important, and you have it, you can scroll down here and see what's going on. But basically, I have it set by owner, and then it's by the opportunities that are in the development pipeline, the kinds that they are. Are they, are they a lead or are they a client? Because there's two different types are in that pipeline. What's their lead score? Are they low, medium, or high? How can we help? Remember that card when we talked about the development sales pipeline? In that card, we talk about how we have to come up with something that says we heard them, we understand their goals and objectives, and we think we know how we can help them, and then that's the strategy you're going to act on to move forward. You'd have that in here. And then you'd have, how many days have these cards been in that stage? And if it's starting to get a long time, what's going on with that? That's when you kind of need to do some nudging. That's when you need to do some some kind of like, hey, what are we doing here with this? And then how many interactions have we had? Or how long has it been since we've had an interaction? All of this kind of information can be here in this report that really gives you a good sense of what's happening in the development pipeline. And then the same is true for the engagement pipeline. But remember, with the engagement, these are people you don't know. These are strangers. Everyone in the engagement pipeline is a stranger. You want to get to know them, and the goal and how you win this pipeline is by asking for a meeting, and then they say yes, and then you discover, their goals and objectives, their lead score, and anything else, right? So you don't have clients in here. You only have leads. So you have how many open leads, how many won leads that you've had a meeting with, or that you asked for a meeting and they said yes. That is a win, and then you have the meeting and they move into the development pipeline. How many you've lost, and you should have lost. You should have a fair amount of abandoned ones too. It means you're trying really hard and not everything's going to work, and sometimes you're just going to walk away from it because it's not a fit for you either. So a lot of good reasons here. And then once again, you kind of have that same information in here by owner, who's working these leads and these engagements, who are these people that you're going after and targeting. What can we share? Remember, this is informed by the marketing pipeline, and the marketing is targeted marketing for the engagements. That's these people in the engagement pipeline. And in that card, you're specifically saying what you think you can share that will make them engage you back. And when you get engagement back, you can start having, a little bit of a conversation. Maybe that's through email, maybe that's through LinkedIn or whatever that might be. But eventually you'll be able to say, oh, you're interested in this. Hey, how about I show you a little bit more? Let's get together for a meeting. I have some questions for you too. That kind of a thing. And then you could see, how many days in the stage, how many interactions, how many days has it been since you guys have had a talk, and just kind of like just making sure that everything is staying fresh here. And like I said in the very beginning of this episode, someone is tracking all of this. Someone is paying attention. And when things start getting really stale and old, they're not moving, or nothing seems to happen, there's no task, nothing, these numbers aren't producing right here in the ones, someone's on that. There's a whole team that is talking about it, but someone's facilitating all of that. So these are the sales and engagement and development pipelines. Now, to make these gets a little bit tricky. If you like pivot tables, then you're going to love this. If you hate pivot tables, or you don't even know what I'm talking about, then here's how we're going to handle this. I'm not going to go through and make every one of these, but rather I'm going to go through here and I'm going to click on a lot of these different bits of information and data. And then I'm going to just walk you through the different steps of it. And there's a video, you can just kind of grab the recipe from there when you go to make your own, and just pause the video, make your own, pause the video, make your own. It'll be a lot easier that way. Trying to get people to understand this is pretty difficult, and it takes a long time. It even took me a long time. So I think, and actually the way I did come to understand it was I just got other people's templates, or I started seeing other people's work, and I started seeing the little kind of recipes that they were doing. And then I just took them and just applied them. And then I started to understand them once I started to work them a little bit. So that's what I'm going to have you do as well. And I recommend you do really get into this. And remember, you're just reporting here. You're not changing any data. You're not impacting anything. You can't break anything. The only thing that this is doing is pulling data that's in the system already. So have fun in there and just kind of explore a little bit. So let's go back to the sales pipeline here. And then I'm gonna go into edit on this, and then I'm gonna click on this, and you can see that this is, like I said, one of the key performance indicators. I just drag it and bring them on in. I can just go like this and have it here, and I can just make whatever I want. And if I don't like it, I can just click away from it. If I brought it in and I did do something like let's do opportunity one count, and that came in here, and I didn't want it anymore. I just delete it, and it goes away. It's that easy. But when I'm in here, what you want to do is decide what that indicator is going to be. So I'm clicking here, and then I choose from all of the different options that are pulling from the cards that are in the sales pipeline. So value. Here in the KPIs, you're kind of limited. You'll see more on the insights. You can take this quite a bit further. These KPIs are kind of just quick shots. But I can choose, open record count. I could go into lost, sum, things like that. That's how I made all of these. So that's where you're going to pick that. And then what you're going to do is make sure it's going to choose the date range that's up here and that's closed at. So I could choose when the date range is created at, or I can have a couple other things down here as well. Most of the time, this will be one of these two. And when you're counting something as 1, that is when it's closed. So you're going to mark it being in the date range of when it's closed. Here, opportunity pipeline, opportunity status, opportunity owner is following these up here. But if you don't want to follow these and you created your own and you want your own custom, then you would say, no, I want you just to do the one I have going and not the one that's following up there. This will make more sense in just a second. So that's how you do these kind of KPIs here. And then I think these are all just those KPIs. Then you have these insights, right? So then if I can grab an insight and I can just bring it over here, I can just drop it here and I can make this, I'm now in the inside to make a new insight. And I can just create a new one from here. But rather than do that from scratch, what we're gonna do is go back here and show you one that I've already made. So I can click on this, and in configure, I can just, once again, I'm using the same things that I talked about here. For here, I'm saying when this opportunity closed at, because I'm looking at jobs 1, so when it closed, and I'm having it follow these guidelines up here, those filters that are up here, right? If I added a filter, I just drop it there. And if I don't want that filter anymore, I can just throw it back in, or just click on it, goes away. I can just throw it back over here. All done. But if I click on this insight, I can go to edit, and then you can see a little bit more how I built this. So here you have a metrics column, and you have rows, and you have columns. This is that pivot table bit I was talking about. And here is all of the data that's in your system. So I can go, I want to know what opportunities I have won. So I could just type in the word 1. And anything with 1 in it would come up, and I'd see, opportunity record count 1. And then I could just drag this over here if I wanted to, and it would do something. In this case, it's not doing anything what I want it to do because it's a different kind. But then I don't want anymore. I just drag it off and drop it. No harm, no foul. It's all good. You have nothing to worry about here. In this case, what I've done is I have created, you can see down here in this gray, it says opportunity record 1. Right? And it's showing the opportunities in a custom field that I made around agencies. So I grabbed opportunity record count 1, I brought it over here, and this is what I got in this metrics column, so it's going to do a measurement. And then I did a filter below that. So there's filters here, and I said, I only want to know agencies. So earlier I said, right, like you may want to know how much work you've won by brands and which ones by agencies. So in the opportunity, whenever you're doing a new pipeline record, and I'm in sales, for instance, and I go over here and I have a contact type is either a lead or a client, or, so in the sales pipeline. So if it's a lead, or I could say the business category, we talked about that earlier, right? The business type, brand or agency, the job type, video, whatever this job is, these are custom fields that I made. And now I can use those as filters down here. And I'm choosing it to filter based on agencies. So if the type is agencies, then that is what I'm going to have show up here under agency jobs. And then this, you get a very technical name up here that looks like that. You just click in here, change the name to agencies. So, and here, if the number was, a decimal and, like that, I could just change it. And I usually go to inherit. It was kind of what the automatic default system is, or rounded. Either way, it works just fine. And then I can just close that. You can move these things around. So I can move it down underneath that one so they switch their order around a little bit. If that's what you prefer, I can put it back up there. I could add other things. Now, you'll see here in this metrics, it's around numbers, calculation, and you can do some labeling, right? With this ABC is what it's implying. But down here, you can only do the labeling, and you can only do, I think this right here is called a calendar. So I can't, actually, well, it will let me take that. Oh, sorry, I was talking about down here. It won't even let me put it in there. I have to find something else, like maybe I can type in, say, the business category down here, and then I could add it in here, and it'll give me a business category in addition to that information, so I can see how many agency jobs were food and beverage if I wanted to. But if I don't like that, or I can move it down into here if I wanted to show up in a different kind of a format and see it that way. But I don't like any of these. I just trying these things off and I don't like them. I just take it out and it's gone. No problem. You can change the name of them up here. And over here is where you can change the different kinds of kind of infographics. So this headline, that is the KPIs. So you can make your custom KPIs here and get really kind of tricky with that. You can, of course, you can do column charts and bar charts and all that kind of stuff. I tend to like the table chart quite a bit. I like the table chart and the headlines, and I do some of this other kind of graph work as well. But for the most part, I do that. Let's say I took this and I wanted to adjust it. I wanted to duplicate this, change the name. Instead of jobs one, it would be lost. And so I just changed that variable to some degree. I could just go save as new, and it would just be a brand new record. And there you go. I'm not going to save this time because I don't want to lose this, but that is a little example of that one right there. And I'm going to leave anyway. I'll walk through this one just a little bit faster so you can see how that looks like. So in this situation, what I've done here is I have opportunity records that I've won, and I just did the filter as the job type is video. And I did that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And then I just get this very simple graphic right here. I could change this any way I wanted by pulling information, all this data from over here. You could search just by, names that you lost, and all those things will come up. Or you could search, I'm looking for opportunity information. You could just find it here and kind of scroll through. Sometimes it's kind of nice to just see what is even available if you don't know what to search for. Kind of nice just to go through these little categories and see what is possible to make reports from. All of this data in here is your system, and you can pull this data over here into one of these 3 areas, in one of these 3 boxes. Choose the kind of infographic that you want, and then you'll have the result. You can also put filters up here. You could put a date up here if you only want that, or if you want to say, let's say opportunity pipelines. I want to drag that up here, and then here I'm going to say only the sales pipeline. I'll hit apply, and this time period here I might say, let's say opportunity is this year, or you could do things like relative period, and you could put from last week to this week, or you could do change it to let's say keep it this year, but then you can compare it with same period as previous year, and then hit apply, and then you can get some interesting stuff that way. So just mess around here and have fun with it and see, and hopefully you'll use some of these kind of recipes that I've done for yours. Same with category, just real quickly to walk you through that. Same thing, opportunity record 1, you can see that here, pulled it from over there and brought it in, gave it a new name, and it's given me these categories up here. When you get into something like this, kind of interesting, and I'm going to go through all of these just so you have the screen grab of them. So when you want to do your recipes, you could just look at this and kind of use it to make your own. But this was, so I call it this. I did put some a filter up here. So I have this calendar filter, right? And I say when this job closed at this year and same periods as previous. So that's what I showed you already. Jobs one year to date last year. So I have a date on that one that's going to show that. And that's how I get these two different ones there. I'm also using the view of showing it by quarter. So I'm saying when they close and by quarter. This automatically comes up when you click same period in a previous year. Okay, let's continue on through these. Jobs by owner. So I have the jobs, I have the opportunity record count. Oftentimes, this is what you're going to start with. You're going to start with how many jobs. I'm just going to count all the jobs, but I put some filters up here too. I say only in the sales pipeline or only jobs that are won. So it's saying all the jobs that are in your entire system, but I'm filtering automatically right here by the opportunity pipeline of sales and that they're won. So I'm not seeing all of them. That's how you kind of bring it down. And then here I have the value of those jobs. And then down here I found owner. So like if I just typed in owner, opportunity owner, and I just dragged it down here. It's going to double it. But if I don't want that, then I just go boom. And you can see there where it said opportunity owner, and I don't want that. I just want owner. So right here, it's just owner, not opportunity owner. And I don't want this to say opportunity record count, and I don't want this to say sum of op value in US dollars. I just want to say value. So I just changed those things here. All right, so there's that. And then we can get into one like this here. You can see what I did here. No filters on this one, but I have the job value, right? The opportunity value, the running sum. So that's going to be over here. I can value, and actually I'll do it like this: running opportunity value, running sum, and then the other one's just in US dollars. You can click over these right here, and it'll give you a little bit more information by hovering across. And then I do the close date, really important. Like I said before, you have this close dates in here, and that tells you what you're going to forecast out. And then I don't think there's anything else in here. That was it. And then you would save it, and you would have it right here. It would show up just like this. I always want to look in the configurations to make sure that it's measuring these things by the right thing. Sometimes it'll default to when the job was created. You'll see the numbers like, wait, this doesn't make any sense at all. Always click on that configuration menu option, because it's happened to me many times where it's just in the wrong spot, and I want these to be marked as when it's closed at. Or for some reason, this isn't following what's happening up here. So always kind of click into configuration there. Interaction, so, you can zoom into, I can add reports inside of reports inside of reports, and if somebody clicked on it, it'll take them into further and further, more kind of detail and nuance of things. Edit is where I went into, and then you can move from dashboard if I want. And so I should say throughout all of these, you can make these bigger, you can make them smaller, you can add 3 or whatever, however many insights you want to have here. You could put insights right next to the KPIs. These are all areas you can. I could make this a name of a field, of a section rather, if I wanted to, and then even give it a description. Here's what the recipe is for the forecasting bit here. So I'm saying the opportunity value sum, and I'm putting that in the metrics box. And then over here, I'm saying the job close date, and then the job status. So whether that is the job status is open, or whether the status is won. And then the same is true for the lost. Here is kind of a good one, because So like this is a KPI that I just dragged down here and just put in some basic information, and then it just made it for me. Didn't have to do much at all. But sometimes there's data that I want and I didn't quite get it from that shortcut. So you just make your own, and that's what I did here, if I remember right. So yeah, here what I did was I dragged over the date function and put it up there, and then I say opportunity closes at. I said this period and then I want to compare this to a previous period, right? And when I do that, I get the opportunity to get these custom fields. These are called the secondary fields right here. So this is the metric for the primary. This is your main one, your KPI. And remember, I'm in this headline field right here. So this will give me the main KPI, and that's the opportunity value average. And remember, this is also another filter here is the sales pipeline. And then here, I click down there and I'm telling it, I could have it do a sum. So if I did that, it would give me a very different number. But I want the average of all the jobs that are in the sales pipeline that I've lost, because these are the jobs that I've lost. And so that's in the primary field right here, and in the secondary field, I get this kind of information here. So I just call it previous year is what I named that right here. But this information automatically populates when you do the comparison up there, and then you can just give it a different name. And if you want to sometimes change this information, you could do that down here in configuration. So this is the comparison bit. Like for this one, I actually had to do that. So I decided I wanted an arrow to indicate that it's going up, and then the color, like it might have been the green was the primary initially, but in this situation, this is a job lost, and if it's going up, that's not good. So I wanted that to be red, and so you can kind of do that kind of stuff there. So that's jobs lost average. And that's the sales pipeline to kind of walk you through that whole bit. So I want to go back to, I'm going to cancel any work I did on that. I'm going to go back to the development pipeline. These are a bunch of KPIs that I just built. So here, very basic, opportunity record count. It's open, status is open, so that's it. I just dragged over opportunity record count, and then I gave it a filter that I only want open. And this is being filtered up here by the development pipeline. So I'm only seeing things in the development pipeline, and I'm only looking at leads. So I decided I wanted the contact type when I did over here. Let's see, contact type, opportunity, custom field, CF stands for custom field, the one I made. I just dragged it up here and made it that. And I wanted it to be lead, so I can go here, I can say lead, or I can have it be client, I can have it be lead and client, whatever I want. And I just get 12. And so I did that for all of these. I did it for ones that are open. I did it for ones that are 1. So opportunity status 1 on an opportunity record count. Same kind of stuff up here. This time, it's once again, this is called client. Actually, I should double check this one. Oh, that said leads. That should be clients. There you go. Let's save that. So open clients, open 1. So clients that we've won. Remember, we're in the development pipeline. There's 2 kinds of people in there, leads and clients. So I want to track both of them. How are we working those? Lost clients, abandoned clients, same thing. I'm using the headline graphic, and I'm just doing very simple open record count that have been filtered by lost. And then the same is true for abandoned. There you go. Always keep in mind that you want to be looking at the configuration just to make sure that it's following the date range and that it's either open or created or something else, that it's the right one that you want. something to keep in mind. You can move these things up and down. You can make them bigger and smaller. I have these in 2 sections, as you can see. So this is the clients section. This is the leads section. So if I go here, and then I'll exact same thing as the one above. But now, I had a feeling that was going to be like that. I think I moved these around. So opportunity record count, opportunity status is open, development pipeline, lead, and there's 12. So I'll just save that. Okay, let's see if this one's right. There we go, leads that time. Development pipeline, opportunity record count, 1. I'm clicking there, I'm saying filter by these things being 1, right? I'm picking that 1. I could choose more than that if I wanted to. And I get that. And the same is true for lost. There you go. And then finally, abandoned. Okay. And then down here, I have this is an insight. So I grabbed this and I just dragged it down here, and I decided I was going to make an insight. And it took me to this. As soon as you do that, I get to this area over here. And this should look very familiar to you now because we've just been working in that. So this is a blank canvas here. I'm going back over here to the dashboard. I'm going to go back to the development pipeline here. And then, but I made, so what you're doing is just looking at one that I made for you to just follow along. So here I am saying a few things. I am saying I want this to be a table. I'm saying I'm going to filter. I just want this to be the development pipeline. And I only care about the status being open as opposed to lost, won, or abandoned or anything else. And in that case, I then go down here and start adding some data to start making, and putting this whole thing together. So here I'm saying I want the sum of opportunities, days in stage, and I could choose a variety of things here. I want the sum of those things, and I don't have any additional filters on there, although I could if I wanted to. And this is just a version of what's over there, but you're just filtering inside of this specific data point, not outside of it, but inside of it. But I'm not going to do any of that. So that's what this is. I'm going to do the days in the stage. So that's this data right here. And one little funky thing here, whenever you're doing this metrics box here, it'll always be on the right, and then the rows and the columns will always be on the left. So I'm doing days in stage. That's how I'm getting this information right here. And then I'm also doing sum of opportunity interaction count. So how many interactions have we had with these leads? And then once again, I'm doing the sum of that. And that sum is coming up over here. So what this information is telling me is what owners are working on what jobs that are what type, with what lead score, with an explanation of how we can help, and how long have those people been sitting in that stage, and how many interactions have we had. And we could add more too, like when the last time we've interacted with them and things like that. There's a bunch of ways to continue building things out. And then for this data over here, these are all things that I've done. So opportunity owner, so I just go there and owner. I get opportunity owner. I just dragged it down here. It's opportunity owner would be the technical name for it, but I just change it to owner by just clicking in there and changing the name. There's no other little filters on this. None there, none there. So you can see that just opportunity name, opportunity owner, the opportunity custom field, the type, right? This is what we were talking about earlier when I was making those custom fields. The lead score, that's all here. And then how can we help? These are all in the cards. They're all here. So if I go here and I said new pipeline record, by the way, clicking that plus button is a really great way to kind of say like, oh yeah, what data do I want to pull from again? You just look at your cards where that data is put in, and then you can go over here and search for it. So like over here, that's what I was doing with these cards. Remember these sections that I had here where you have the lead score and you have to describe all those things. Then you have this account management for the clients where you have to answer all of that. You could put all these in reports if you want to. And some of that I did do right here. So that is that. And that gives you a little shot of the development pipeline and how we do those. And then there is the engagement pipeline. I won't go through all of these again. I'll just look at one for now. They're the same thing. I think you're getting the idea of this now. But if we go to edit, you'll see it. Opportunity record count. Its opportunity status is open. So I have open. So I have another filter. That's a filter below it. So I don't have just the filter above it. I see the opportunity records count, and then I only want to see the opens of that account. I have of that count rather. It's in there, and I'm looking at the engagement pipeline. All right, I'll show you one more. Same thing. Opportunity record count, engagement. Except this time I'm filtering by one. So I'm filtering by one there, and I'm not doing anything else. I think that gives you the idea. All right, fine, I'll do the other ones. I might as well. I'm already here. That way you have them. So you can grab this one. Opportunity record is lost. Engagement. And then there you go. And then for this one, it looks very much just like we did for it's an insight. So I grab that insight, drag it over into this field, and then I start crafting, start bringing things in, taking things and just dropping them over. Let me just clear that field there, and you can see all of these things. I just start grabbing and dropping them over. You drop it anywhere you want. You can move these things around any way you want. Just grab that little bar and start moving it up and down if I want to change the order of these things. Like I said, you can't break this. This is just pulling other data. You're not changing the data. So just get in there and see what kind of stuff you can mess with. Look at the different infographics that you can put in here, and the bars, the graphs, and all of these other charts that you might have in there. Here it's days in stage. So I want to know the owners. I want to know who's working what engagements. What is the thing that we're going to share with these people? Remember the marketing engagement working together. How long have these people been in that stage? How many interactions we've had with them. Here it's 0 because I'm not doing interactions in this demo account. But I could do a lot of others if I was a real account. When you're working with real stuff, you can have a lot of really great reports in here. So there you go. That is the custom reports. This is a template. You can create your own here. You can start with a template. And some of these are really good, actually. These are Copper's custom templates, and you can go into like some of these here, and then you could add it to your dashboard, and it'll come up here. This is a copy of the sales forecasting, and this is a great way to learn how to do all of these different filters and these pivot table kind of exchanges as well, because I can click in here. Actually, let me go into edit, and then I'll click into this, and you can do exactly what I was doing before, and you can see how Copper builds some of this stuff out. I learned a lot of it that way, just going through the templates that they have and seeing all of the different things and going, oh, that's similar to what I want. It's a different kind of business, but I bet you if I change it just a little bit, and then you start fine-tuning it and then modifying it for what you want to do versus what is built in the template. That's a really great way to learn how to do this stuff. And you probably saw here, when you're doing these things, you can click on information, it gives you more. You can open it up and it'll give you the details there, and I can click on it and it'll take me to that actual pipeline record. So the reports are really interactive in that way. Really nice. Okay, let's go back here. Let's cancel this one out. If you want to get rid of these things, you can. I would click edit, and then I would hit delete, and it would go away. So there you have it. One of the cool things about these, and what I recommend you do, is you make these at least these three pipelines, and then what you can do is share, and you can share these with others. So you can make these reports and then send it to them if they're a user in Copper, and they will see these reports in their Copper system as well. You can have these be private, just for yourself, or you can make them public if you want as well. And then the other thing is you can schedule emailing them. So this is a really cool feature where with my clients, I set them up so that they're getting these 3 reports every week delivered to them so that their whole team sees them. And it's really a great way to keep people, like, if they're not paying attention to Copper for a couple of days, whatever, and they get that report, they're like, oh, and they see it in their inbox and they're kind of going through it. They click on it, they go into their Copper and they start paying more attention. So it's a really good way. So you can schedule those in any way you want, and it shows up as an email, PDFs, and then you can kind of follow along that way. That's kind of everything. If you're in Insight Builder and you start making these custom, so these insights that I built, right? So remember, dashboards. I'm in a dashboard. I want to edit that. The insight, I can bring it over here. It's going to create the Insight Builder. This is just another way of saying this over here. Same exact thing. But sometimes you want to build the insight before you create the dashboard. You just kind of start making things. And then you would save them and they would just be named. And when you're looking for something that you've built before, it's over here, created by me. I can see everything in here. I can see if they're the kind of the highlight infographic, or if it's a chart or a bar graph or whatever that might be, a table, they're all right here. And these are ones that I made. And I can see all of them if I want. These are in the whole system. Some of these that are come with the system, some templated ones, things like that. And you can just kind of pop them up. And then you could change the name and save it as new in some other kind of new way. So that's kind of a cool thing. You just want to find your stuff right there. Okay. I think that is everything I wanted to show you in reports. Yeah, that's everything. I think that's a good overview for the custom reports. There's a couple more things I want to show you though in Copper. So that's the custom reports here. Here you go, is the dashboards. Here's the information within those dashboards. You can make as many as you want and have fun. You're not going to hurt anything. But if you want to get data into a CSV rather, or some kind of a spreadsheet, there is a cool integration that Copper has made that I kind of recommend you checking out. And that is called the Copper Sync. Actually, it's not called the Copper Sync. It's called the Copper CRM for Google Sheets extension. So if you're in Google Sheets, and you could just be in any Google Sheet, and you will see, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to stay right here. If you have this installed, you say Copper CRM for Google Sheets, and you can import data. So here I have an example of what I've done. So this right here, all these tabs are different imports that I've done. So these are all the opportunities in the sales pipeline, every single one of them. I import it over, and I do an initial import, and it brings me over all the data from Copper that are in the opportunities in the sales pipeline. And then there's a bunch of columns and fields that I don't want. I get rid of all of those things, just tailor it down to what I do care about, and then it syncs automatically. So every single time that I put something into Copper, I can come to this, and you'll see that these things just sync right up. And that happened automatically. I'm just doing it again. But you have all of the data from Copper in a CSV format or in a spreadsheet format here in Google Docs. That just makes it really easy. If you prefer slicing and dicing and doing reporting based on spreadsheets, because that's what you're familiar with, then you can do that here with this system that pulls directly from Copper and keeps it live, as you just saw right there. And you can do that with people, you can do with whatever. The way you get this is you go to extensions from any Google Sheet here, and you go to Get Add-ons. I believe this is how you do it. And yeah, you'll see here, you could search Copper. Oops. And you get this one here. Let's see if I hit enter, see what happens. There it is. Copper CRM for Google. Oh, that's the marketplace. No, that's not what I wanted. I just wanted, let me try that again. Extensions, get add-ons. Copper. Oh, there it is. It was there. That was it. Yes, Copper CRM for Google Sheets. Sorry, I thought that was the one for the larger one, but this is the extension for Google Sheets. You'll see it right here. So you can just install it here, and when you install that, it will then show up in your extensions right down here below, and then you can start importing data. And every time you import data, it just creates a new tab. So if I go Start New Import, it says, let's load some data. And it says, what do you want? Do you want some companies? Sure, I'll load some companies up. Or if you wanted to load opportunities, okay, which pipeline do you want to pull from? You're like, oh, I want to pull from the engagement pipeline. I could even, through the custom filters that I made before, I could even have it do that if I want to. And then just do import data. And then it'll go through this, it'll create a new, there it is, it's a new tab there, and then this data will start coming in here. It's kind of a really cool tool. So if you're doing reporting right now and you really love spreadsheets and that's your preferred way of doing it, then you can have that directly from Copper with this extension integration that pulls live from Copper. And you can see here. And then, like I said, the cool thing about it is, like, once you delete things that you don't care about anymore, then that data won't come in anymore. So you can get this thing really fine-tuned. You only have to do that once, and then it just stays that way. So that's another way to do reports. And then finally, there's one more way to do reporting in Copper. So if I go into Customize Copper Settings, and I go all the way down to here to Looker Studio Reports. For anybody that is familiar with Looker Studio Reports, they're going to love this. And for the rest of us who don't work in Looker Studio, this is a bit of a chore. Looker Studio is a Google product. It's a very fantastic Google product. Basically, what it does, it creates charts and tables and all kinds of other pivot table stuff, information done graphically. A lot of people use this for when they're doing Google Analytics on websites and visitors and things like that. There's a lot of good tutorials on how to do Looker Studio Reports. Copper's made an integration natively into it so that you can, if you do like Looker Studio Reports and you want to build them out based on the data that's in Copper, it's built right here. It's pretty straightforward to do. There's a step-by-step guide here that you can check out, and you can read this and it'll walk you through the steps and all of that kind of stuff. I've done this, I've played around with it. It's more power than what I've ever needed or what any of my clients have ever needed. So I don't do it. It is a cool feature, it is a cool tool. I'm tempted to learn more about it, but right now I don't have enough experience in it or have enough need, and none of my clients have the need beyond anything I've done here to walk you through it. So I'm just showing you what it's about, and you'll have, if that seems interesting to you, I invite you to go into it. They have some templates here that you can start with. So opportunity and pipelines is one here. That's the one I've played around with the most. And you could just build your own from scratch. You just pull the data. There's a little bit of a connection, so you'll have to use your API. So when you're going to do that and you're going through the process of setting it all up, I should go back here just for a second. You just start loading. When you start loading, that's when you start making these two apps work together. Your API keys are here. So I already have one for Looker Studio. You just copy this right here and then go back to Looker Studio, put it in there along with your email address, and the data starts talking and the apps start talking at that point. So pretty straightforward. You could follow the instructions on that. But that's pretty much reports. So 5 different ways to do reports. You have the sales pipeline with filters, or the slipping away icons, or you can do the pipeline reports, little button right there just above the sales pipeline, or you can do the custom reports, Google Sheets, or the Looker Studio. So I hope this is helpful. This is a little bit of wish I had back in the day. Hopefully you find it helpful too. I imagine any CRM that you're using has some kind of version of this. So maybe this is useful even if you're not using Copper. But if you're using Copper and you haven't quite gotten into this level, then hopefully you found this all really useful. All right, there you go. Enjoy.